just want to follow up on your answer to Said about the day after and the plan for peace in the Middle East. You've been, I mean, from this podium or even from many other platforms in the U.S. government, you've been pushing for months now for a day after plan from the Israelis, and you're pushing with the regional players to find a formula for a peace that will last, everlasting peace. But what we hear from the Israelis is in a different page. They are opposing any Palestinian control of Gaza. They're not willing to enter any discussion internally about the day after. And in principle, the Netanyahu government and his factions are against the two-state solution. You've been pushing for months. Do you have any way of pushing more or exerting more pressure on the Israelis to engage in that?
So a few things about this. Just one kind of factual note. So with respect to plans for the day after, I spoke about this a little bit lately. We have seen the Israeli government start to develop more of their own plans and put more of their own plans forward. Not as advanced as we would like to see, certainly. But just as a factual matter, they have been starting to have those conversations internally, and they've been having those conversations with us, and I believe they've been having those conversations with others in the region as well. Which is not to say that there is a fully formed plan that is ready to go, or certainly one that would be acceptable to the broader community, but they are at least advancing in their thinking of that issue. But I would say that with respect to the longer term issue, ultimately Israel is going to have to make some tough choices, which is always the case. It's been the case with this struggle between Israel and Palestinians for decades, that ultimately resolving it requires tough choices by both sides of this conflict. And to get to, in our view, a lasting end of this conflict, it's going to have to take tough decisions by Israel. The case that we will make to them, to get to your question, is that ultimately making some of these tough decisions is actually in their interest. It's in their long-term security interest. It is, of course, in the interest of the Palestinian people to see lasting stability in Gaza, to see reconstruction, to see a better form of governance than what they've had since Hamas took control of the Strip a couple of decades ago. But it's also in Israel's long-term security interest to find a lasting resolution to this conflict. So we will continue to press that case to them, but they will have to make decisions for themselves, as every sovereign country has to do. But it is just our view, and we certainly hope that the people of Israel will ultimately endorse this view as well, that continuing to have this long-term security threat staring them in the face is a problem for their security, and it is a barrier to their long-term integration with the region, which is something Israel has wanted from the very founding of the state.
Well, what's the Palestinians' options here? I mean, until the Israelis or the Israeli government reach a sober moment to accept that it has to do tough choices, as you said, what are the Palestinians' options to fight this occupation that will be acceptable to you?
So when you say Palestinians, I don't know if you mean the Palestinian people, if you mean the Palestinian Authority.
There are
lots of different ways. What was the answer?
Let's just say the Palestinian Authority.
The Palestinian Authority. So there are lots of different answers. That's why I asked. There's lots of different ways to answer that question. We think there are things that the Palestinian Authority can do. We think there are reforms that the Palestinian Authority can make that will make it clear that they are a reformed, revitalized authority that can serve as a credible governing structure, both for the people of the West Bank and the people of Gaza. And that's a message that they could send both to the government of Israel, but also to the Palestinian people, who we know want to see a reformed PA. So that is one thing. Ultimately, what we are trying to do is work with the Palestinian Authority and work with partners in the region who we know want to see lasting peace and stability and want to see the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. And so that's what we'll continue to do.